Parashah Shlach L'kha, the travel of faith. Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. We explore Parashah Shlach L'kha, found in Bamidbar, Numbers 13, 1 to 15:41, a deep story on faith, fear, and the results of our decisions today. This narrative speaks directly to our own spiritual path and the challenges we encounter, echoing across the years. Moses sends 12 spies, one leader from every tribe, at God's order to survey the promised land. This was an invitation for the people to witness the goodness of the country God had promised them, not an act of uncertainty on his side. They traveled over the verdant valleys and challenging terrain for 40 days. Upon their return, 10 of these leaders gave a startling, faithless report. "The land," they said in accents tinged with terror, "devours its inhabitants, and all the individuals we saw in it are men of gigantic stature. And there we beheld the giants, the sons of Anak. We were like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight." Numbers 13, 32, 33. Their narrative was rife with hyperbole and sorrow, transforming the advantage of observation into a burden of self-condemnation. Born of what their physical eyes seen, instead of what God had promised in faith, their anxiety permeated the whole congregation like a fatal epidemic. Driven by fear, sobbed all night, fiercely criticizing God and Moses, and shockingly, even expressing a want to go back to the degrading enslavement of Egypt. They chose the known bonds of bondage for the terrifying freedom God promised. Only Caleb and Joshua, 2 spies, had a different spirit, a spirit anchored in unwavering faith in the God who had previously done innumerable marvels for them. "Let us go up at once and take possession," they exhorted with brave certainty, "because we are fully able to overcome it. The Lord is with us. Do not dread them." Numbers 13:30, 49. Indeed, they saw the giants, but they saw them through God's might and faithfulness. Still, the frightened populace vowed to stone Caleb and Joshua rather than following these voices of truth. God decided a severe judgment as a direct and profound result of this widespread unbelief and rebellion against his divine promise. The entire generation, save Caleb and Joshua, would wander in the wilderness for 40 years, a year for each day the spies explored the land, until they perished, never entering the bountiful land flowing with milk and honey. Their physical death in the desert came to represent their spiritual dead to God's promises rather starkly. Against this sad story of unbelief, the Haftarah from Joshua Yapaz 2:1-24 presents a startling and optimistic contrast. Years later, as the younger generation stands on the brink of the land, Joshua, now in charge, orders 2 spies to Jericho. Rahab, a Gentile lady, a harlot, shields these spies. Rahab shows an amazing and active trust in the God of Israel, notwithstanding her social level and upbringing. She acts out of belief in God, not only hears about him. "I know that the Lord has given you the land. For the Lord your God, he is God in heaven above and on earth beneath," she says with unbroken certainty. Joshua 2:9-11. Unlike the terrible anxiety of the previous Israelite age, her faith guarantees her redemption and the defense of her whole family when the great walls of Jericho supernaturally collapse. Her narrative emphasizes that God's atonement scheme covers all those, including Rahab, who put their faith in him outside of Israel. Rahab's later listing in the lineage of Messiah Yeshua, Matthew 1:15, is no little matter. It is evidence of the transforming force of faith and God's inclusive grace. The Brit Chadasha echoes strongly this great difference between unbelief and faith. Drawing straight from the failure of the desert generation, the author of Hebrews 3 and 4 uses this sobering warning to Yeshua's adherents. He begs, "Take heed, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living God." Hebrews chapter 3:12. We are urgently urged to aim to enter God's spiritual rest, the everlasting inheritance and peace found only in Messiah Yeshua. Just as the Israelites failed to reach God's physical rest, the promised land, because of their unbelief, this spiritual rest is a secure living in God's finished work through His Son, not only a lack of activity. Unbelief still is the biggest obstacle to Yeshua realizing God's full promises and rich life. In Hebrews, the warning is against the root of all sin, an evil heart of unbelief that turns away from the living God, not against particular transgressions. The parashah ends with the lovely and timeless mitzvah of tzitzit, fringes on the corners of our clothing, that you may remember and do all my commandments and be holy for your God. Numbers 15:40. These tassels were to be a continual, physical reminder of all the laws of the Lord. Desperate for healing, the woman who had experienced a 12-year bleeding problem touched the fringe of his garment. Matthew 9:20, 14:36, and was instantly healed. Wearing tzitzit, Yeshua, the living Torah, embodied God's living word, not just as a reminder, but also as the actual source of our holiness and healing. In His perfect life, death, and resurrection, fully fulfilled the law. He is the greatest reminder of God's commands, as He is the Word made flesh, and from Him we find not just a remembrance of holiness, but also the ability to live a holy life. He helps us to really be holy for your God. Whether they show up as dread, uncertainty, extreme conditions, or worldly challenges, brothers and sisters, the giants in our life can look equally powerful as the Anakim seem to the spies. But knowing with perfect conviction that if God is for us, who can be against us? We are called to walk by faith, not by sight. Romans 8:31. Caleb and Joshua are right. Our Joshua, our ultimate deliverer and leader. Yeshua leads us not just into a physical land, but also into the everlasting promised land of God's kingdom and His unwavering rest. His completed work on the cross is the ultimate sacrifice, the real offering foreshadowed by the several offerings detailed in this parashah, exactly atoning for our sins and allowing us to live a life of true freedom and holiness. With hearts full of conviction and bravery, let us therefore choose faith over paralyzing fear. Welcome His commands as expressed in His flawless life, and bravely enter into His magnificent promised rest. Shabbat Shalom.